It's my pleasure. I was thinking about it. I'm super happy that finally I managed to have a guest from Kobe because I'm a huge fan of The Office. And I have
Okay.
also your book. And I have
Oh,
also,
I'm so jealous.
and also Dan. Dan, I met Dan in Munich and he wrote a dedication to me in the book. So I'm
Okay, so
officially
so actually, welcome to Kobe, and you should come and visit us if you are
I
in Copenhagen.
I came to Copenhagen in May last year, and I was even in the coffee shop. So maybe you passed by me,
Maybe.
but I didn't know
Next time
anyone.
you're gonna tell me.
Yes, I didn't know anyone from Kobe when I came, and I did also. There is a series of vlogs for the people who don't know. Um, there is a series of vlogs that are available online, and they're called "Visit Copenhagen Like an Architect." And one of the episodes, we go to the coffee shop in Kobe and show the models and everything. So
Okay, maybe I missed it. When
y-
was it?
it's on the YouTube channel. If you click through the
Ah,
playlist,
when were you here? I don't remember like exactly the
but it
date.
wasn't an official visit. I just came and just filmed. I had a camera. I did it actually with my phone. It was in May, in the beginning of May.
May. Okay.
And
Okay.
we were
Okay.
super lucky because it was a little chilly for May, but I think it wasn't chilly for Copenhagen, and it was very sunny, and it was very nice. And we walked every day 20 kilometers because we visited all the projects possible from every office possible in Copenhagen, and then a lot of people that I know through the podcast told me, "Oh, you see so many things that even me that I live here, I didn't know they were they were this building in Copenhagen." So we visit also different projects from the company from Kobe, among others, and it was very nice. And I'm finally so excited because we've been organizing this several weeks, months, shortly before Christmas. I connected with you, and I was so excited to have you on. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Ooh, I'm excited too. Let's do it.
Just a second.
Yes.
The audience is telling me that your audio was very low, but now it should be okay.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah, no, but it was me,
Is
my
it
fault.
fine now?
So
Okay. So that's probably why. Could you hear me okay?
no, I hear you okay. I think everyone should
Okay.
hear you okay now. Um,
Okay.
anyways, so let's start to explore your story, and the people that are in the live can tell me if now the audio levels are okay. Um, so yeah, everybody say perfect now. So welcome to the podcast again, and you're the computational design head of computational design, as far as I understood, computational design
Yeah.
expert at Kobe. If you, I don't know if you have listened some of our podcasts, but it's also about understanding who you are, not only what you do nowadays, but to understand how you arrived to where you are nowadays, so that people
Yeah.
can get inspired by your path, or also like people that are maybe now studying, they can get inspired to go to follow your path, or people that are on already have some experience may somehow try to change direction and go in your way. So you're Italian. I'm always surprised that it's amazing how
Mm-mm.
many Italians are.
And you didn't know because at one point I actually was checking on you and I was like, you probably know because I saw you studied in Italy and yeah, and then you were, oh my God, are you Italian? And I was like, yes.
Yeah, I never
Yes,
know.
I'm Italian.
Because I live in Germany and there are many Italians, but they don't speak Italian because they were born here. So I always have to first ask what was the case. So what was the case with you? Where are you from, and why did you decide that you wanted to become an architect?
Oh, an architect. Well, I think more than decide, I think I like to say that I became an architect because of a dog. So when I was a little girl, I was literally obsessed with the dogs. I had, huge posters, stickers, pens, T-shirts, everything with the dogs, and it was of course like a recurring theme in my family. And my parents would tell me that we couldn't get any dog because of our tiny apartment. So I would go to the closest Tecnocasa shop where you can get, this magazine with the pictures, the prices, description, the drawings. And I would go there with my dad, and I would spend quite a long time digging into the book. And I was very young when the process started, and it lasted like for 6, 7 years, so very long. So my dad was trying, to keep me uh, um, kind of trying to find excuses why we were not buying certain apartments. And he would tell me, "Hi, Eliana, this is perfect. We are missing a bathroom here, or we are missing a bedroom." So I really wanted this dog. So, I was spending time by trying to fit it in. And at one point, I was like just trying to image my own and do this kind of axo. And I was dreaming big. I wanted the villa with 2, 3 floors. I was also dreaming of having some sliders, the garden, and of course the small house for the dog. But none of these ever happened, and we just moved into another apartment. But I have all these beautiful memories of my dad and I going into many different apartments in the cities, and even on construction side. So I have this memory of the concrete from my childhood. But I wasn't dreaming of becoming an architect. So I was obsessed with the animals because I couldn't get the dog. So what I would do with the money that my grandma would slide under the table, at Sunday, like every good Italian grandmother, I would go to the shop and try to adopt every kind of animal. So I had everything, like a lot of goldfish, parrots, rabbits, turtles. At one point, I even got a chicken, but no dogs allowed in our apartment. So I was this kind of kid having books about animals, and uh, yeah, there were no Lego involved in my childhood. Maybe more clay. I liked more like free forms and do my own jewelry, and of course tiny dogs. And I was dreaming. I was dreaming to become a scientist. I wanted to go in a laboratory and do like crazy experiments and find out something great. But like everyone, when I turned 17, 18, I started to wonder what to do with my life. And it's a moment where you're very confused, that you start to dig into your past and try to understand who you want to be. And I at that point liked both humanistic and scientific subjects. And I had this still the passion for drawing, and this kind of a weird obsession for Tecnocasa magazine, even if it was done technically, is something I still do today. I go on the website, and I love apartments. Um,
So for the
and
people who
I
haven't lived in Italy, Tecnocasa, it's like a website that sells homes.
Yes.
So
But when I was, 4, 5, till 13 years old, back then, you could just get it like in your hands, and I think it was so amazing. I don't know. I love it. It was so great for me. Um, yeah, so at the end, I didn't know what to do when no one I knew was an architect, and my parents are in very different fields. So i I think, I thought maybe I try and I get to know how to put those stones together and do my own villa one day and get the dog.
And
This
then
is
you didn't know that in the end of the day, the real estate guy is the one who has the money to get the house and not the architect. But it's okay. It's also still fun, still fun. And which part of Italy are you from? Where did you got your
I'm
educations?
from south. I'm from Napoli.
Oh, the best food in Italy is
Yeah.
from Napoli, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's so funny because all the people that I don't interview Italians because I aim to. It's just because everywhere there are Italians doing design, a part of Italy, and uh,
Yeah.
and everybody moving abroad. And so you studied in Naples, your university, your education.
Yeah.
Where did you get your education?
I studied at Federico II. So it's yeah, it's the most ancient uh actually most ancient university in Europe. And yeah, they have this wonderful holistic approach where they teach you a lot of history, but also construction, physics, math, a lot of structures involved. So you end up having a very whole I don't know idea about architecture. I think it's a very good program, but at the same time, it wasn't so innovative at the time. Resources were quite limited, so we didn't even have a laser cutter. Or sometimes we wouldn't find enough electrical plugs for our laptops. So it was a completely different world compared to where I am today. I feel very spoiled here in Denmark.
And then you did your both bachelor and master there, or did you study somewhere else?
Yeah, I actually joined. It's called 5EU or something like that, but it's 5 full years. So it's like bachelor and master all
Us.
together.
You did the same as me. I did the same,
Yeah.
but in Rome, so I understand what you're talking about.
Ah, nice. I love it also because there is a lot of engineering involved. And yeah, back then, as I told you, I wanted to become a scientist. So I had this love for math, physics, and these things.
And that what did you do some sort of exchange program or something to try something different or?
Not, no, not at all. I really regret it. But yeah, again, I have to say, I don't think that in the south of Italy, parents really encourage children to leave their home. It's a stereotype, but in my case, it's very much true. So while I was studying, I was full on into this Italian mentality that, you just have to perform as much as possible, be super, super fast, and finish your studies. So I had the dream of trying the Erasmus program, but I wasn't brave enough back then to even apply, and it's something I really regret right now.
Yeah, but in the end of the day, you managed to to experience it later on in your
Yeah,
career.
I know somehow. Somehow, yes. But when every time I meet young people, I always, especially Italians, I always try to show them how different life can be. And here in Denmark, they have a very different approach. It's super fascinating for me. I couldn't believe it because um, if I'm not wrong, then after high school, they actually have the opportunity to go. It's not really universities, it's like a place where you can experiment what you like. Like you can join something where they do design and architecture, and then for 6 months or a year, you get started and you get to know what they do. So at the end, you can make an informed decision. And yeah, I think it's so nice. And here, another thing I really like is that uh, it's something people say very often is take your time. And yeah, it's yeah, people really I feel do many experiences. And yeah, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's
they
mind
take it.
blowing for me.
they take it slower. Also here in Germany, I had the same thing, because in Italy there is this mentality that you have to be as quick as possible to finish your studies, and then you have to have this sort of linear path towards your future. And in north of Europe, maybe they don't have this social pressure, and everybody are more relaxed. And at what point of your experience in architecture, whether as a student um, or whether as a professional, you discovered this passion for computational design? And yeah, how did you get, what was
That's
that
another
attracted you?
memory.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm very curious to hear.
Yeah, so I clearly remember the first time I turned on a grasshopper. And I was just lying in bed with my laptop, very, very relaxed, and I had no expectations at all. Uh, and I started, to drop all these components into the canvas, and I couldn't stop for the entire day. I felt like a kid in a playground. I was having a lot of fun, and I had this feeling that finally I was finding something that was talking like my brain, which when I say this to people, they're just, oh my God, you're so smart. Not at all. It's a nightmare. I'm an overthinker. And in my brain, there are a lot of boxes connected with the wires. And it's always about what else if, then, or, and yeah. So it was very intuitive. For me, grasshopper. So great for professional life, having this brain in personal life, not so great. But I remember that moment, like trying out grasshopper, also because I felt I was committing some kind of sin. Because as I told you, I was in the south of Italy in this very strict, traditional university. And the professors would always just encourage us to do straight lines and work with the classical 90-degree angle. And I was very young, very, very young, and I didn't know what bad or good architecture was. So I kept it more or less like a secret. But I continued to use Grasshopper because I thought it was very smart. Why would you draw something and then delete it and do it, doing it again? Just right. I was always like preferring to do some kind of script and then play with the parameters. So I would somehow try to get as fast as I could. And you But I was also lucky along my path because there were actually some very inspiring people that I met. And first of all, it was my professor of geometry. She's very passionate woman called Mara Capone, and she would show us how to generate complex geometries starting from like very simple elements. And more than that, she would show us pictures of architecture where those shapes were used. And that was so exciting for me. And um, still, it was at the beginning of the years, but it was very powerful. And the same year, I was also very lucky to be in the room when a guy from Zadid came to give just one lecture about the relationship between nature and architecture. So at that point, again, animals were coming in. So he was explaining, why butterflies are shaped that way. And I am I it was very impressive, and I could see there was so much more to explore. But it was only later, when I was getting closer to my thesis, that I found, the courage to came out as a grasshopper person. uh, so seriously, it was like I am. Of course, there were like some professors who were more open-minded. So some of them, they would actually call me in to do competitions with them. So there were people who knew, and I had like a lot of friends coming by and asking some tools. Um, but it was really for my
It's my
thesis that
pleasure.
I was, trying to get out. Um, and but my approach was very, very soft, because I went back to that same professor, like Mara Capone, and I was like, I really like that. What do you think about it? And she actually got so excited, and I started to study history, actually, and all these characters like Gaudì, of course, but Nervi, Musmeci, Isler, Candela, like they are doing these awesome concrete shells. Yeah, it was so interesting. And then I decided to join the engineering university to take some courses. And I was studying finite element method. So I would try to analyze structurally these like complex shapes. And while like studying more and more and more, then I decided to join one of the first courses by Arturo Tedeschi in Milan. It was form finding strategies, and it was 2 days, very intense workshop. And my level of grasshopper was already intermediate, but that was also super inspiring to finally see someone using the software, because back then there were not so many I think there were no tutorials. There was not so much knowledge about it. So it was very, very interesting for me to see the approach, and also to start to um, like something so specific and technical, like structural analysis. And we were using, I don't know if you know, these plugins like Kangaroo, Karamba, yeah, whatever. I think that was the first the very first years.
What year
But
was
as you
that?
know,
Around what
I
year?
started university in 20. Uh, oh, I don't know. In
Okay, it doesn't matter. You don't remember, but people
oh
could
my
Google
God,
when was the.
2000 and
Mm.
yeah, but there was not even the first official release of Grasshopper when I started.
So
So I think the first,
the
if I'm
first
not wrong, the very first official one is in 2014. So it was a bit earlier than that.
I've heard of Grasshopper the first time, I think in 2011. I was still in school because I was studying in a
Yeah,
school.
exactly.
I was in the artistic high school, so I was doing architecture already in school. And I had a friend that was a few years older, and he told me, yeah, there is this office in London, Zaha did, and it was very famous in Rome because were opening the Maxi Museum.
Maxi.
Yeah, and they were using Grasshopper, and the first time I heard about it was around that year. And yeah, he showed me you can do this crazy
Mm.
stuff and things like that.
It's around the same period of time.
Yeah,
So it's when there was like still a lot of excitement, and also a lot of misconception about the software,
yeah, yeah.
because there was this misunderstanding that if you use that software, oh my God, you're gonna do some crazy aesthetic. Yeah, I don't know. It was not so many people in my school were excited about it. Um,
And you mentioned
so
something that once you open it for the first time, it was kind of like working similarly to your mind. Do you have a very
mm,
mathematical and logical mind, or do you have? Because I always ask this, like a lot of people tell me
yes.
that in order to use Grasshopper, you have to forget about how you draw. Like you have to
Mm,
forget about the same way as you're drawing. But they also say,
yeah.
but you don't have to be like crazy mathematics and things like that. You have to
No,
just
that's true. But my case is a bit different, because I think when I was doing, I was already quite good in 3D modeling in Rhino. And the I think that's why I also mention geometry as being something very important to me, and that professor specifically, because the way I learned, she was not teaching us the software, but just the logic of geometries. So every time I was modeling something, I would think step by step. And in general, I am a big fan of math and geometry. So I have to say I am a very much a logic organized person, but and I'm not saying like, oh my god, you have to be this way. It's just to me it was kind of very natural because I was already unfortunately thinking like, oh,
Like
now
an
I
out.
do a point, then I do a sphere, then I cut it, like
Okay,
so
but that's kind of easy I mean, it's maybe harder to understand exactly the tools, but I guess that if you have the right mindset and maybe you go really deep into the topic, it's not so hard to understand. And you mentioned you used it for everything and university, like secretly. Did you use it also to do like any kind of, because you said also in the meanwhile, people at your university were appreciating more traditional shapes. And I have to say, for
mm,
example, the projects of Cobe, they're like some exceptions have a little bit more of a crazier shape, like organic, let's
mhm,
say. Because what I appreciate about the company is that it has this very good taste of translating traditional architecture in a modern language that it's not so cheesy, not so like
mhm,
fake old, but it's
yeah.
inspired by the old and translated into something that it's modern and relatable to nowadays. Would you model everything in Grasshopper, also like your walls and doors and everything in Grasshopper?
Well,
Or or
well. Today, yes, but in the past, not everything. Of course, not everything. Because of course I was also learning, but everything for me was kind of a gym. I always wanted to test it out. But there were, I have to say, there were like some figures in the school that would let us like do some more like. Especially the people I helped, they were like doing digital fabrication or acoustic optimization. So, or other people that were into structural analysis. So, uh, you know, um, especially towards the end, you would find like, and you would also choose different atelier. At the beginning, you don't really know. Um, Much about the school, and then mm, you get to talk with the older people, and you get to understand a bit more what you like and in which direction you want to go. So then at the end it's actually was possible back then to have some people who would let you explore.
I see, I see. And at what point in your life you joined the real architecture, like professionally? Because you've worked in several offices. What was your first job where you started working? How did it happen?
Mm-mm-mm.
And were your skills in Grasshopper helpful in order for you to get this job?
Okay. Okay, you have to know that my dream was another one. So when I joined university, my dream was to become a professor.
Yeah,
So let's say that uh, I was one of those Italians, that was going straight in a line. And I was like, okay, so after my thesis, then I do PhD, then I do this, and then I become a professor. Um, Instead, when I got my thesis, then I understood there were like some technicalities. So I had to wait few months before, in Napoli we have exams to enter the PhD. So I at that point I was already teaching in school, and um, but when you follow some courses is never full time. So I had some time, and I was like, how can I invest my time? What can I do? I want to like I was again in that mentality. I want to be efficient. So I found this post graduation master in a UAV in Venice, that was having courses only during the weekend. And I sent there my application, and they have like some kind of selection. I got in, and I started this crazy period of my life because I would take a train and I go from Napoli to Venice, have my weekend of courses, then I go back, have the lectures at university. And since I wanted to be super efficient, I would, study also for my architectural license on top. And okay, I was young, I had a lot of energies, but I ended up being exhausted. I was like it was really a lot. So at one point I decided, okay, I need, to take a choice. And I spoke with the professor, and she was actually very kind because she let me, collaborate only for articles kind of remotely, from Venice. So I could move there. And that was very good for getting more and more skills, because this master is called MADI, and is about digital architecture, so advanced technologies. And we would study NURBS modeling, polygonal modeling, so not only Rhino, but also 3ds Max, Maya. We would do renderings with Vray and Corona video animation, coding, Grasshopper, Arduino, and the resources were completely different. I To me, it was a paradise. I could finally, use an actual 3D printer. Yeah, like it was absolutely amazing. So that was another huge chunk, huge step into skilling myself. Um, and also, when I was there, so many doors open up for me. Uh, So, so I was at that point, kind of, there is this title in university called cultore della materia, is kind of an expert, a specialist, and I was specialized in geometries. So uh, um, it was kind of a bit easier for me through UAV to find connections to other companies. So first, my first actual job was with a museum. It is the Museum of Caorle, and I would do this 3D modeling of ancient weapons. So something else. Like it was no architecture, but
That's
it's
crazy.
actually really. Yeah, great. Like I don't know, like I would never think of doing something like that. I I, I don't know, but I loved modeling, so I was like, why not? And it was actually really, really useful because you get to model some shapes that you don't normally do in architecture. And we would also do the animations and the drawings, the 3D printing. So that was the first job. But again, with UAV, so guys, really, like, I think when a university have resources and connections, it's actually really, really helpful, because they would, say, okay, let's make, who is interested, and you would send them your portfolio, and they would, allow you to work with these companies. So my second job with them was with Banca Ifis. So again, a bank, something else. But this bank was having a program called Botteghe Digitali, which is actually, so they were investing money into some companies in Italy to let them, go more towards the digital world. And I decided to work with this company called Nomade Boards. And it's a super cool team who's doing uh, wooden sustainable boards, like surfboard, skateboard, longboard, and
What are they
yeah.
called again?
So again, Nomade,
Nomad.
Nomade boards. And they have amazing, amazing stuff. Just check it out. I really like it. And uh, so the work I made together with them was to try to optimize their fabrication process using a CNC machine. So we worked together into, simplifying the geometry in a way that actually we could use the machine, because it's not flat, so you need to find, like, to be kind of creative and find other ways. So we created together the first DIY surfboard, wooden surfboard in Italy. We also started to look into customizing online the boards. And if you check online on YouTube, you will also find me, because there is this video that Botteghe Digitali made. So you can find a very, very young me with long hair talking about the how to do these things. And yeah, that was also super interesting, because I could understand much more about wood. We were also doing wood bending, and especially I was bringing, the digital into reality. So I learned so much, especially because the machine we had back then, they made it themselves, like they made the CNC. So we had some kind of big tolerances that we needed to consider. And together with them, I was going for some exhibitions in Italy. And I went to Bologna, where a friend of mine from Federico II was working. And he actually gave me a call. And since he was one of the guys I was helping with, the parametric stuff in school, he told me, hey, we we have this concrete shell, and we are searching for someone with your skills. Do you wanna come? Um, and so I think uh, it was a period where, for the first time, I left Napoli, I left my family, and I left my comfort zone. So at that point, I felt, why not? I'm gonna challenge myself a bit more, and let's see how is working for an office. So I went in Bologna to work for Mario Cucinella Architects, and when doing this concrete shell in Salerno, which is very close to my hometown, I felt, oh, okay, wow. Actually, actually, I can actually build something like, the things I was studying, and I thought that was very cool. And another factor at that point was that I would finally have some money. So I felt a bit more, free, and and brave. And I was like, okay, now I can actually try to do something I was dreaming of, because I was already regretting the Erasmus thing. I had it always in my mind. I was like, why I wasn't so brave? Oh my God, oh my God. So I just decided to do my portfolio in English and to send it out. And then that's another story, because I got my interview with the tricks, and so my life completely changed. Um, but if I'm not wrong, we were talking also about skills. And one thing I want people to know is that it's important to never stop learning in this field, because things always change. And I'm not afraid to say that I'm a workshop addict. So you will find me in many different workshops. I love it. You always get to learn also different approaches in a teaching. And yeah, I'm very lucky to be in Denmark, because they give you education funds, so they encourage you to study.
That's in
And
Germany too. That's in Germany too. I have to say that that's
oh,
probably somewhere, everywhere northern in Italy, you get that. So you can
but that's
go.
awesome, because
You,
then at the end I got my, oh, probably there is some delay.
no,
You
no,
were
no,
saying something.
no, no, no. Go ahead.
Okay, but so, because at the end, in Italy, I took my license, and I'm part of the union there. And actually, to keep your license, I
Yeah,
don't know,
yeah,
you have
yeah,
to do courses. But
yeah.
they don't. like it's not like here. They actually give us, I think, one 1,400 corona, so almost 200 euros a month to study.
Yeah,
That's
that's great.
absolutely amazing. Like Denmark is awesome. I'm a big fan.
No, I totally. I think it's so funny to listen to your story because you mentioned like that the first time you went, like you got out of your comfort zone was when you moved to Bologna. But for me, listening the story of you studying at Madi during the weekend and going back to teach, it was already quite crazy. So I think it's so funny how, funny in a sense, ironic that people are doing something super extraordinary for many others,
Oh,
but in their little world they don't see that it's so that it's so an exceptional that because uh, not everyone would do it. And I was curious in this whole story that you have told until now, which is for me personally very interesting and very impressive. Beside all the architecture,
thank you.
how was your social life? Did you have time to do anything else but architecture?
Well, exactly. That's You are completely right. That's the point. That's the absolutely the point because I like I shared with you all those fun memories of childhood with the dog and so on. But the truth is that I'm actually coming from, let's say, complex or a difficult uh, upbringing. So so when I was a kid, then when I was a teenager or young adult, I would um, kind of cope with the high stress environment by creating a very safe bubble around me. So um, already when I was very, very little, I would study a lot. So mm, so it's not that I was conscious about it back then. I can tell you about it because I did a lot of work on myself, and so the books have a beginning and an end. And as a young person, uh, studying is something you can control, so at least I had something I could rely on in my life. So that's why already when I was in high school, I had very high rates, and I would get teachers to to let me tutor other people. But reality is I wasn't doing much out of studying, and that's very sad. It's another thing I somehow regret. Of course, I my parents would try to push me to do some sports, but I always found studying much safer than anything else.
But I don't think you should. I mean, yeah, I don't think that regretting something is the right word because in the end of the day, I think it's everything we do. It's a piece of a puzzle to where we get now. So if you got
Yeah,
where you are now and um, yeah, it's
yeah, I
beautiful to
understand what you're saying.
it's sometimes I was thinking about it today that I think the most hard moments and hardship in life a person has had, the happier they are on a daily basis. Because when you have experienced
Mm.
something really hard or something really difficult or something really bad that has happened to you once, and maybe and they say this thing that is super cheesy, if it doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but I think it makes sense because every day, for example, I have experienced some hardship, and every day that this hardship it's not happening, I'm happy because today I think, okay, today everything could have
Yeah,
been way wronger
it's a
than
relief.
yeah, it's like it's okay, it's like it can go
Yeah.
way wronger than what it is now. So yeah, but it's important because you can spend your time. You have a limited amount of time. Everyone gets the same amount of time per day, and you can spend it, you know, you can put your minutes only on certain things, and then if you didn't put all the time that you have put in learning these things, you wouldn't have gotten where you're now because you have gathered these
Yeah,
skills
I know. I
and
know. I'm actually, I think the same, but I also want to be honest because I think, of course, like today when I look at it, I'm like, okay, I'm very thankful for all the work I put into studying, but it's also very much true on the other side that while growing up, I would also feel different, or I would, you know, kind of, I don't know, have these kind of feelings. Also, yeah. Ah. But yes, I understand what you mean, and it's very much true. And I am also very, very thankful for the previous version of me.
and me personally, as a person that gets to know you today, I can tell you that you should look back with with, of course, when you distance with time from events that are in the past, you can appreciate them more. So with appreciation, and that everything that you have done, it wasn't wasteful. And talking about
Yeah.
you leaving Napoli for Bologna, I experienced. So I was born in Bulgaria, so then I moved to Italy, and when I was 23, moved to Germany. And despite it's just 1 hour flight, it's a very different world, and you have to adapt a
Yeah,
lot
of
to
course.
the local culture. How was for you moving from Italy to Denmark? And I was in Denmark this last
Mm.
year, and the environment is so much different. And I don't mean the climate, just the how everything looks like. How was for you moving to
Well,
Denmark? And yeah.
mm, okay. Mm. Well, first thing, I am. Uh, I survived because I got a lot of rainproof equipment before coming to Denmark. No, I actually had the feeling to be home. So it's true, Napoli is beautiful. Uh, it's also very different. It's very chaotic. I like to say that it's a crazy, crazy city. Um, but I don't know. Sometimes. Uh, I really love Copenhagen. And after I think 2 days of moving here, I felt I didn't want to leave. Uh, you know, especially, sorry, I'm doing this sound. Oh.
No, we are not on
But
TV. You can talk as we were in a, like we talk like we were on a coffee table and drinking a coffee
yeah.
or a wine or a beer. So you can do all the sounds. Just tell me the story. I'm interested in hearing.
No, but it's weird because I'm Italian and I'm supposed to feel somehow not very similar to this society. But sometimes I think I'm more similar to Danes than to Neapolitan somehow. Like for sure, I'm probably much more outgoing, or I don't know, some stereotypes like that. But I really like the fact that here people have so much respect for for people, and they are so kind, and everything works. And when I was going in a university, I it's technically 15 minutes from my place to the university. I had to start to go there 2 hours in advance because you never know if the train is coming. You never know if it's too full. And I don't know. I, I think then when I moved here, I understood how much stress uh, wasn't in my daily life. I feel that life is smooth, and uh, I like it. I like taking my bike and being able to go everywhere, and this gives me a lot of, a lot of freedom. And as a woman, I finally feel, I don't need anyone to protect me. I can be in the middle of the street at 4 a.m. and and I feel safe, and this means a lot to me. And also the fact that you don't feel that the people uh, are judgmental. Um, I feel very much like free of being whoever I am when since I'm here. So um, I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I
I
understand what
love
you
it.
meant.
I wouldn't be here.
I think I understand what you mean. Like, I, as a person that's like adopted Italian, let's say, because as I told you, I have a different background and I just grew up there. Um, it's to me, Italy, it's a very particular place in every single aspect. It's like very, it's the place of the extremes, in my opinion. There is
Mm.
extremely nice things, extremely bad things, exceptional things, and it's so you can see it because there are also a lot of people like you that I'm so fascinating that I talk to so many people in design and architecture that I didn't know, and I didn't know you. I go and look for people, and then I found a lot of Italians that are doing some extremely exceptional things that are at so high level. And I think it's such a pity
Mm.
that the culture of the country it's not keeping up
Yeah.
with this people that are so many in Italy, and it's crazy. But for example,
Yeah.
when I moved here, there is this guy. I don't remember what is the name of the guy, but he wrote a book, "The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck," and
Ah, yes.
he lived in many countries, and he says the best of one country is also the worst of one country. And for example, I
Mm.
love Germany, but you have to, for example, in Germany, you have to always like there is no room for spontaneity, you know, like you have to, for example, if you want to
Yeah.
meet up with friends, you have to tell them in advance. You cannot be just
Yeah.
like, oh, today I feel like going to have a beer, and they're like, but today I'm busy, but I could do it in 3 weeks. But on the other
Oh,
hand, in Italy, everyone is spontaneous, but they're always spontaneous. You tell them we have to do this and meet this at this time, and they will say yes. But if it's gonna happen, it's really uncertain. So I think
yeah.
everything that it's so good, it can be also the worst. And when I was in Denmark, I felt, I mean, compared to Germany, regarding the efficiency of transportation in the city, it's not so much different. I live in Frankfurt, so it's among the most livable cities in the world. But what I notice is that I think the people in Denmark have a different character because there is a different climate and a different environment, and they have sort of built
Mm.
these living rooms as like public living rooms, as
Yeah.
Kobe says, to even enable the possibility to interact with other people. Because we went actually to all the libraries that Kobe has designed in this
Mm-hmm.
different neighborhood. And it was so funny to see how uh, the environment outside is harsh, and then you enter in this library, and then you see, I don't know, kids going barefoot around, and
Yeah.
it's all like
It's so cozy.
yeah, it's so
Super
cozy, but it's
cozy.
also like everyone gets like have sort of gets in there and gets a little wilder in there, and then when they leave, they're again like a little bit more, more how do you say, not structured, but like
Stiff,
yeah, yeah.
maybe.
So it was so fascinating to see how like in Italy you don't need it because the climate, like for example in Napoli, you live on the street, you know, you just go in the piazza
Yeah.
to, and you know that you're gonna meet the people in the piazza, but you cannot do that in Denmark, at least not as many months as in Italy. So that was so interesting to see in person. And I think that it's super fascinating to experience like something northern than than what I know. And so I guess for you it was easy to to adapt in the local culture. And how was it professionally? Did you choose Denmark just because it happened, or you really aim to go to Denmark?
Oh, I honestly chose Trixen. um, not Denmark. So as um, so it was very much a surprise because with my family we didn't travel much. So um, I didn't know so many other places, and I never been in um, like in Copenhagen before. Yeah, actually moving here. So um, I I don't know. I was more okay. Yeah, I love their architecture, and why not? I'm gonna fly, and and then it just happened, and I feel very lucky about it that I felt in love with the Copenhagen. So I yeah, I I didn't know how good it is. Scandinavia in general. I think there is no comparison for my field, like for our field.
And how was it? Like, what kind of role did you get when you moved to 3XN?
So
You
I was
applied
already
as
an
a
architect because
you applied as
so
a.
I would
Wait a second.
I think there is a some
There is some delay probably.
some delay. No, but
Um,
I just I sorry.
if you want, you can try to refresh the page and enter again, and maybe it's gonna be better.
Yeah.
So few minutes and we're back. Don't go away. If you have any questions, I saw Apostolia was really active in the chat. So here you are. You're
Mm.
back. Now it's better. I see you better.
There a chat where people are writing. How does it work?
Yeah, because for the few people that are in the Patreon group, they are have the link for the conversation. So usually they send the questions for the final Q&A at the end. Usually in the end of the
Okay.
podcast, I'll read to you the questions that are coming from the chat. Um,
Okay.
so it's there are some interesting questions. But let's first finish
Yeah.
the
Okay. Okay.
let's first
I'm
finish
a
the
curious.
story.
But
Um,
I can tell you about it. So when ah, so I was very much unprepared to do any kind of a professional work interview because till that moment, as I told you, I it was more like okay, my rates talking for me, my professors talking for me, and some kind of connections. It was always revolving around academics. So it was actually the first time me interfacing uh, really such a big international office, and I I wasn't ready for it. I remember I was in the very south in Calabria with basically no Wi-Fi when I got their email, and I just I was there connecting the laptop, very old laptop with my phone, and I didn't even know and think they would ask me to talk about my portfolio. If I think of it, I'm like, oh my God, how young and naive I was. And we had this very bad Wi-Fi, and every now and then it would just stop. Uh, It was, I thought it was really, really terrible experience. I thought, oh my God, I performed so bad because also the English I had back then was only coming from school. So I had already this thing like, hi, I'm Eliana, I'm studying, I'm working for Mario Cucinella Architects, stuff like that. Um, and I also remember the people I was having the interview with, Jesper and Laura. They are still there, and they were not smiling at all. I thought, oh my God. Next time I'll know how to do it better. But somehow they sent me, a message, an email 2 hours after, and then they told me they wanted me to join them as soon as possible. So then I don't know. I got this contract, and when I was reading through, I thought it was too good to be true. Um, um, here in Denmark, like right now, the office is basically empty. At 5 in or even 4, we are done with work. And I remember when reading in my contract, I was like, this is impossible. Why are they even writing about it if it's not true? And I remember in seriously, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know anything, just to tell you, because I just jumped. I wasn't, this wasn't planned. I just wanted to try out. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to challenge myself and to grow and to make my English become better and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, when I moved, I remember my brain was melting. I don't know you in Germany, but luckily it's Trixen is really really international, so it's like full English. But I remember these like weeks or maybe first months where I was really like just listening a lot, because it was so much work for me to uh I don't know, to switch from Italian to English. It was yeah. But now here I am talking with you on a podcast in English, so
Do
very
you,
proud.
do you know some Danish too?
No, very few words. I heard I actually listened to is she called Dalila, um, the other Italian architect living in Copenhagen. No,
Uh,
maybe I'm wrong, but so I had a completely different experience compared to this girl, because being in an international environment, actually, yeah, you don't need much Danish. So I know the important words. So to cheer, you say skål. No, I know I'm learning because I wanna, yeah,
you mean
respect,
that
and I love the
Danila?
country
You
and I wanna stay.
you meant Danila? Danila, we had her on the podcast.
Danila, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, everyone has a different experience because I mean everyone has different life, and that's the beauty of it, that if I interview another 10 architects that moved to Copenhagen, they will tell me everyone a different story, so that's the nice part of it. And how was
Yeah.
how was working in a part of the language and everything? I totally understand you, because when I came here, I arrived as an Erasmus student, and then I saw everybody at the university were working as interns in other offices, and I thought, oh my god, they must be so good. In Italy, I didn't even know how an architecture office looked like. But then we started doing the classes,
Mm.
and and um, and I was like, but they're not so good. They're not geniuses. They just speak German, so I have to learn a little bit of German and try to land a job. And then I started working for a company, and they were paying me, I remember, 11 euros per hour. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm
Oh.
making so much money. How it is even possible? And they would make me do like all the Photoshop for competitions and things. And I was like, and this is even fun. If they asked me to do it for free, I would have done it for free, but they're paying me. So I totally understand what you mean. And I had the same difference to really be focused on what they're speaking in German, because my German wasn't that good. So I would have this friend of mine of university who was working in the same office, and I would ask him, what did he say? Like, what did the boss say, but in English, so that I know what I have to do. And it was crazy adventure. So what were your first tasks? What were your tasks? What were some projects that you worked on that maybe you can share about? Some of
I
them
think,
maybe are built, so it's not
I,
secrecy anymore.
yeah. No, but I think there is another good thing about Denmark, which is flat management. So it's not very, I don't know if you say hierarchical or hierarchical. Anyway, you always feel you have a voice. So people trust you, and they give you responsibilities. And best of all, at the end, everyone is gonna always say thank you and be very kind with you, which is something I really, really admire and like about Denmark. Sorry, it seems I'm like Denmark. Denmark is actually a very nice place to work in, and so I don't know. I was in the competition department at Trixen, so I would have quite a tight timeline every time. I would do so many competitions during the year, and you do massing study, facade design, and yeah, I actually worked both like in early stages and later. When you win a competition and you do move into more like design development. And of course I had like still my skills in computational design, and I'm actually like also very passionate on the side about like graphics. So it was also something I liked to do. But in here they do understand what you're good at, and then they try to give you all the opportunities to improve, get more skilled, and just perform as much as possible for the company. So for example, like, I don't know, the first thing I'm thinking of when I think of tricks and is the Shenzhen museum in China. So I've been working on that since the very beginning. So since it was very much a secret, a competition, and that's a 100,000 square meter museum, and all of that is parameterized. So I was like working full time because of, and you know about it when you work with the clients, and especially when they are from Asia, there is very much a different process. So the brief is changing all the time. And everything goes so fast, and like we were making the changes and they were like pouring the foundations. And so every time they were changing the program, we would adjust the shape, and then to optimize all of that, we would have you have like these cones inside the Shenzhen Museum, which work as a structure. So also all the structure would be parameterized, all the openings to the exhibitions inside. We had like at the beginning a lot of ramps, then a lot of stairs. So uh, I don't know. There is it's yeah. I turn in being, of course, uh, very much in my field, so in computational design.
So you were involved into parameters, like again the modeling part, or how, like, is there a person that's more involved into designing the thing, and then you guys really give it the rules and parameters, or the computational
No,
design team is the one designing actually?
no. We actually made the competition for Shenzhen in. We were three people, and it's of course it depends on the project. But for that kind of shape, I maybe it was a two phases competition. So at the beginning, you use more computational design in order to extract data, like square meters, volume, or I don't know, some other technical things they were interested in, or to like model very fast some interiors or some features of the final shape, like facades and so on. And and then, of course, when you have a more clear idea, especially when it's a very complex one, and you cannot model it by hand, like unfortunately, like it's impossible to keep up with the timeline if you just work merely in a Rhino for this kind of projects. Then there are some other things where you can I don't know, you give some kind of structure as a computational designer, and then other people can actually play with the definition, or I don't know, contribute in. It's very much a teamwork, uh, and it's ever changing because projects are never the same. And during my career, I've been very, very lucky because I worked on very large range of projects.
And were these people that were in team with you, all of them, they were computational experts, or there is
No.
one per? So how does it? Because I always say this, it's super, like, for example, it's super intimidating when you go and, for example, if people Google, I mean, we can maybe in the edit put some images of this museum that everybody maybe have seen this museum somewhere, because it was all over the place when it got released, the first images. And it looks like this I don't know, snake dragon, because it's also about natural history. So it looks like really like it's a very
Yeah.
interesting shape. um, and so you were very skilled in computational and grasshopper and so on. In what kind of expertise did the other people have in a team?
Um,
Usually, what other
so
experts are needed?
one of them was much more into pure management, because there is also a lot of work to do into interfacing the client. Uh, but let's say I feel like you always find some kind of balance. There is maybe someone who is more searching into the story behind the concept, some kind of vision, images. Everyone would of course sketch, and I can help with the sketching. And then I don't know how to explain. Is not linear at all. And one thing about I think working in this kind of offices is that, again, the flat management. So you do have a very good relationship with your teammates. And I remember that. We would work as a one body. So if you get one idea, then the other one with the hand can help into, doing the shape. It's, I don't know.
I don't know. I
And of
understand.
course,
It's
the
like
synergies are.
a flat hierarchy. It's like everybody
Mm,
contributing and working together.
yeah.
And no, that's because we have had also Fred Holt. Probably you know him. His partner at
Yeah.
3XN. So he also told some things about the company. But when you ask more people if the path is recurring, then it means it's true. So it's good to ask you too. And
It
after,
is. It is.
and at what point did you had the opportunity to move to Kobe? Because when we were in Copenhagen, it's so funny because through the podcast, one of because there are so many architecture offices in Copenhagen. I know a lot of people now that work in Copenhagen, so they would tell me stories, and it's not so because there are so many good offices, so people switch. At what point did you have the opportunity to move to Kobe, and how did you decide to do this next move?
Yeah. So, as you said, it's very, very common in Denmark for people to move and to just do different experiences. And I feel that all the big international offices are somehow a family. So you get to know everyone. Like when you go to parties, you're just like always meeting everyone. And I decided to move to Kobe in 2021, and it was basically. Let's say here in Denmark, it was already better with the pandemic, and I think we have been quite lucky with it. Um, but at the same time, it was a moment of my life with, and I'm sure this is the same for many other people, where I thought, I couldn't travel much, or I couldn't do any other kind of experience that would help me grow. So that was also a moment of life where I I again wanted to challenge myself more. I wanted to see different ways of working. And let's be clear, I was always admiring Kobe very much, and I was keeping an eye on it, um, because of course, if you like Copenhagen. Uh, somehow you end up loving Kobe, because Kobe has been having such a big role into the transformation of Copenhagen into a bustling, democratic city designed for living. So I, you know, I right now I live close to Norreport station, so close to Israelplatz. When I go for a swim, I go in Kreuerplatz. And in summer, and if you didn't do it, do it. And it's also quite affordable. I rent a boat with my friends, and then we go around the canals. And the area I prefer the most is where Papyron is, and where our opera park is coming. So, I could experience as a person, um, all these outdoor living rooms, and I could really understand how Kobe could have somehow a very deep knowledge about the background. So another thing that really resonates with especially my previous experience and the academic world is that um, this study, this understanding of the background, the historical traces. So every time I feel we really push to do an extraordinary design that fits in. So somehow an architecture that is grounded into reality, but at the same time it stands up. So if you think of the silo very close by in Norddown, right there, uh, like Kobe took garbage, like a next grain silo, an industrial building, and he turned it into a landmark for the city. And of course, that is like very, very impressive. And in general, like I I don't know. I think uh, there is also the right mixture between all these tiny projects like these green gems or pearls, and then the big international projects. So I found Kobe very interesting. Oh, I see it. That's
Here you
nice.
go. We have
Yes.
an old school way of sharing your screen. I'm just showing the book
Yes.
that I have it here. This is the silo, but for the
Yes.
people that haven't been to Copenhagen, again, promotional moment. There is all the serious visit Copenhagen like an architect, and of course we went to visit the silo and the Kobe office. So it's all there. No, it's true. I was there, so
Yes.
I think my girlfriend always says that she's happy when she travels with me because we visit a lot of, you know, a lot of architecture, and so when she's with me, she doesn't like so much historical things because she likes to be connected to people
Mm-hmm.
that are around nowadays, and so visiting Copenhagen was a really nice experience because I knew all these projects. So we went to that library. I don't know, the one that looks like a TV. I don't know how it's called. The one that's out of wood.
Yeah. Oh, I have trouble saying in the proper Danish, but I know which one you're
Uh,
talking of.
Maybe later I'll show it in the book. But we went there and we sat and we smelled the wood and we read some books inside, and it was so beautiful to just experience. To just
First of all, realize tools that can help in the everyday life. And if you actually think about it, there are things that very simple things that you repeat over and over into projects. So let's say you will always have some kind of stair, ramp, balustrade, just talking about simple elements. So why should you do the same job every time? Why should you, yeah, just draw it once and then the client comes with another idea and you have to do it again? We can just like work into completely cutting this kind of a brainless work. At the same time, we use computational design for more complex things. So if you go through our website, um, I think it's very hard to get a full overview of what Kobe is because, of course, as you said, we do have so much that we cannot share. Like there is so much going on. And for example, one thing I've been very involved with is an awesome but also very, very secret project, which is in one of the biggest cities in the world. And it is a 650,000 building. So it is not a master plan. Like everyone knows that Kobe is good with urban visions, but this is a mixed use building. So you do need that extra layer that the computational design is giving to model in a smart way. So we make sure that we always check all the data. We make sure that all the facades can be updated. We make sure that even in such a large scale, we can go to the human size. And, you have to make sure that you create this kind of perfect machine that is like very, very smooth. So in this case, of course, it's been a longer process. So it can happen, as I told you, that I just like interact with one person or one team. So I work as a consultant for a short amount of time. It can also be few hours because if you need to just like have a balustrade done, I can just, change a few things in a script and give it to you. This is also something I really like giving power to people. So you don't need me, you can do it yourself. You change the parameters and you can actually get whatever design you prefer. And then there is this other kind of work with more like complex projects where I actually need to follow the team for a longer time because there will be so much work coming in many different aspects. It can be also for environmental simulations, so daylight analysis or optimize adaptive facades. So, it is very, very flexible because I like to say I have my doors open. So there is this policy where everyone is welcome at my desk, or to send me to drop me a message and just like tell me a bit what what they are dreaming of. For example, like I just got a meeting with a guy that was really, really tired of doing these fire analysis, like where to locate um, the how to locate the buildings. Like every time is actually such a repetitive work, and you don't need your creativity for that. Like you actually work as a machine in that moment when you're doing this job. So you could see the potential of computational design, and together we tried to find the process, the logic behind. And then sometimes I built the entire script and I give it to the person. Other times, when the person is interested, then we can build it together. Or if the person is more experienced, because of course we have also some people who actually know Grasshopper, then in that case, it's more like a teamwork. It's like we can brainstorm about it. And if you, I don't know, for example, I love complex geometries, as I told you. So if you have something particularly weird that maybe doesn't come immediately to your mind, then we can meet and I can give you some tips about it. So it's different. What I also do in the office is, of course, is innovation. So I make sure that I get as much as possible updated, and I always like communicate with the office. So I do like knowledge sharing, and yeah, that is another aspect where you can see like the teaching coming back. Um, yeah, I think I told you more or less about everything. Like in few keywords, I'm like responsible for the strategic planning and the practical development of all the computational design method in the company.
Okay, but are you involved also in the conceptual work when, like, in the all beside doing all of this, are you involved maybe in one, two projects like involving your architect skills, or you're mostly like the enabler, let's say, that
In
empowers
this
people?
office, well, in this office, since there is so much work to do for the office itself and so many teams to follow up, my role is more like the one empowering people.
No, that's
So
cool.
the tool dealer.
You shouldn't call yourself a drug dealer as you come from Naples, because somebody can take it seriously. It's just
Well,
a joke. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. And I'm curious, in your opinion, what I guess that's a very the part of the culture of the country in Denmark, that there is. I mean, I don't think that there will be an office that there is not a flat hierarchy and not all being equal and you know listened to, because it's the culture of the country, right? It's very democratic, very empowering
yeah.
everyone and giving a voice to everyone. Um, what I know, I learned while I was there, even if it was just for a week, that there is not a lot of acceptance for people that are too much like the rock star or the solo players.
That's true.
But what is the role of Dan in the spirit of Kobe? Because he's the creative director, he's the founder. Is something that he has sort of implemented, or is the whole team that somehow it's always constructed to achieve these results that are so typical for Kobe? Like, Kobe has this aura, this spirit that if I wanted to see, as I said, the most fitting project for that place, I would think of Kobe and no other office. Despite all, there are other offices that are very good and but do different kind of work.
Mm. I have to say, like here and in general in Denmark, is always a teamwork, and to me, it's completely different compared to Italy, where maybe you have the project manager or the project director or the owner taking the decision. Like, um, o- of course, they can help you to finding the best solution possible. They definitely contribute with their vision, but at the same time, is always the entire team and everyone, as I said, really have a voice. And um, y- I don't know, in Denmark, like you go to lunch and you sit with everyone. Um, it's You really feel there is no difference between people. Of course, you have different responsibilities. So um, everyone, of course, um, has a different role in a way, but this doesn't mean that everyone doesn't have don't have power. Like uh, I, I don't know. I think it's very hard to explain if people didn't experience it, because to me, if someone would tell me about it when I was in Italy, I don't know if I could ever imagine a place where I don't know, you have such a beautiful harmony within an office. It's
And
yeah. uh,
is there internal, like, for example, internally, a lot of offices have shared with me on the podcast in the conversation that they internally have like this um, time schedule to, for example, someone, for example, you are very good at Grasshopper and you do an hour or 2 hours workshop to teach the others how to use
yeah.
Grasshopper. Is there, for example, also some workshops by people that are more involved into creating the concepts and the designs, maybe to also teach you the not only the the technicalities of things, but also the way of thinking, the way of
What we
making the
do
concept.
Mm. What we do here is that once every 2 weeks on a Friday, having breakfast, everyone um, um, is welcome to share. So you do have an hour office meeting where people are also talking about, how the concept worked and what inspired them, and the full story. So then this case you can really understand the way other people think and how the project why the project is in a certain way, and that is some kind of brainstorming where you learn about these, let's say, other abilities.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. That would be because I understand that every this is very in Germany. It's also like this. You always speak up, especially because when you when you work on a project, you're sometimes so much involved into certain topics and into certain specifications of that project that you're the only one that is able to see where are the problems and how to solve them. And if it comes always from the top, the solution, it wouldn't work because maybe your boss doesn't know what was the problem of that specific topic and what was all the process behind it into arriving to that conclusion. So, and I think that's again a pit. That's I also more for the hierarchical, for the flat hierarchy, and for empowering everyone to do their part. And also, it's very nice to give a person a responsibility and let them do something by themselves, because then they feel more happy afterwards because they solved the problem.
Yeah.
And that's also something that I think, for example, you said you go and try to, optimize the process, right? You will try to see those tasks that are tedious and to improve them. I think nowadays at some points when the offices are at the scale of Kobe, and I also work in a big office. The problem is that I feel you lose a little bit your abilities of doing it by yourself. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, for example, if there is a certain way of working with Grasshopper and Revit and everything in Kobe, if they give you a pure Revit or a pure Rhino without all the enablers that have been created, it will be very hard to use. For example, I work in a very big office where we had to use Revit in a very specific way with all the possible standards, layers. For example, we had a BIM manager who would set up everything for you, and you would just need to make the walls, and it was like playing The Sims. And I thought, it's nice for the company, but it's not nice for me, because if you were to give me Revit in my own hands, I would come up with a solution, but it wouldn't be so quick. So I don't know. These things is nice, but it's also like I don't know. I'm a person that likes to be also to know how things work. So if I were to work with you, I would be constantly telling you, okay, Eliana, let's go through this parameter. How did you do it? I want to learn from
Yeah,
scratch.
but I love that. I love that. And there are definitely people who are interested in learning. And then you can, do that extra step into going through the entire script. And then you also make sure that they can put their ends into it and improve it or change it in case they need. I think that's the best. I think that in general, everyone should contribute to whatever it is, even the standards. And yeah, but I get what you mean. I feel being in the Rhino world is a bit different compared to Revit.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I was wondering, I'm going to ask you this one last question. I'm not going to keep you, and then we're going to go through the questions from the audience so that I want to
Yeah,
let you go home. I don't want you to stay super late. Uh, but
no worries.
when we go after the 1.5 hours, it means that the guest is super interesting and it's
Oh
not.
my God, is it?
I told you,
Oh,
it
I
flies.
actually thought we were going quite fast.
Yeah, yeah. It's always like this that people think it's just a few minutes that we're in, but we're talking for a long time. For example, I'm a person that is interested in many topics. This is why I do a podcast and I do things online because it's something interesting to me. But in the same time, I'm very interested into, I don't know, Grasshopper or into architectural design or into graphic design or into video editing or into learning a new language. So I would love to do all this stuff. And I'm more like a person that I'm a generalist. I think that I could quickly pick up Grasshopper and understand it, and but maybe not get at the level that you are. And but I can do a lot of things. You know, like I can do a lot of things at a quite okay level. But I don't know. I always am curious for more. And do you think do you have are you more like a vertical skill person that like really love to be an expert in this thing? Is it like, do you have other curiosities that you like to? It's not a bad thing. There is a book. It's called
Okay, okay.
so good they can ignore you, and exactly telling you this: get super good at this one thing, and nobody. And it was your case because a lot of people contacted you to work with you because they knew you were very high level expert in that specific thing. So, what is your opinion on this? Yeah, you're a very
Yeah.
vertical expert.
Okay, okay. So I am more like a bit more like a vertical maybe person. So there is like the boring part of how I get inspired, which is like, okay, of course, talking with a lot of people in the office, getting updated, and then like being updated on the other side with YouTube, LinkedIn. I also do a lot of that on the side, and talking about slightly more fun another step, like I like you know I like getting creative when I work on something much more fun. Kind of when I can imagine myself as this big kid in a playground, and I don't know if you saw it. This project I worked with my friend Marc Antoine is called Fungus Among Us, and we did it with parametric architecture. And I was imagining, myself just climbing and jumping from one wooden mushroom to another. And somehow, when you kind of get that playfulness and you have fun while designing, somehow it gets, I don't know, it gets some success. So it's been like, I don't know if you know this, but it's been 2 years that the parametric architecture is using this mushroom every time they want to do some advertisement. If you have to subscribe to the newsletter or like the Black Friday and so on. So I think something I really like is in architecture is trying to think as a kid, having fun. Another thing I get inspired with, again, among the boring one, I'm going like step by step, is of course teaching, which is like a big is very important for me because you get to connect with people and I don't know you I don't know, somehow the human part like kind of stimulates new ideas. Then out of work, uh, I actually learned here in Denmark to have work good life balance, so to connect a bit more the brain with the body. So I do something that is completely unrelated, and probably you just need to shut down your brain. And I dance. I'm not good at it, but I do some Afro dance and Bollywood dance. And then now I started a course where I learned to sing. So I don't know.
How are you
It's
doing with the
very,
singing?
very, very different.
How are you doing with the singing?
Ah, I just started, but I'm not planning of becoming a singer.
Okay, but the next time you come to our podcast, you can show your skills in that field.
Exactly, exactly. I'm gonna do some kind of, dance and sing, and we can learn computational design in a different way.
And so to conclude, I want to go through with the questions from the audience.
Yeah.
There are three questions. They come
Yes.
all from Apostolia. She's always very active, and she comes up with this interesting question. So you can decide in which length you want to answer to the question. But the first one is,
Wow.
do you think the quality?
Okay.
Do you hear me? Hello.
Yes. I'm
So
being very focused.
okay, first question. I'm going to read it to you. Do you think the quality and the originality of architectural projects in the last 10 to 20 years are better or worse? And in what extent do you think computational design plays a role in this? So it means, is computational design making architectural projects more interesting or less interesting? And what do you think about this compared to the past?
Mm. Well, I think that the design goes together with the technologies and in general the knowledge. I think that in the past, especially being Italian or maybe Greek in her case, I don't know, the name
Yes,
sounds
yes,
Greek,
she's Greek.
but she's but there are like extraordinary things in the past that somehow I'm still very fascinated of. And when I go in these places, you really wonder how they managed to do such a thing. Like still, some of my favorite designs are like all the Gothic churches. um, and I don't think that just using computational design allows you to make sure your design somehow looks uh, better. I believe it always depends on the person that is behind the machine, the person who is making the script. Um, for example, like when I came for my interview at Cobe, what they told me is that it was very hard during the years to find someone that was doing computational design with a certain um, aesthetic, because sometimes when but it's not that I'm against to it, but there are this kind of exploration with the computational design that lead to a certain aesthetic that is sometimes very different compared mm, to the architecture that we do here. So I don't know. I believe it's us as humans that give the power to the computer. So it's all about the person behind. So I think for sure computational design helps a lot into expanding your vision and your abilities. Like I strongly believe that like as a humans we have limited abilities. So it's extremely important to use technologies right. And for example, right now, no, we have AI, amazing. Like the like it's the way it's evolving is really remarkable, and like I can see uh, a lot of potential into just doing what we have right now, the text to image, to just open up your eyes into I don't know, uh, some different words. Doesn't mean that you need to translate it straight into architecture, but
Yeah, it's like
I
a
don't know.
second
I love
imagination.
it.
It's like imagining something that
Yeah,
you wouldn't imagine.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's a very, very hard question.
No,
I
but
think it
you
can help,
answered
but
very interesting way, and I think
thank
it's an
you.
answer. Then we go with the second question.
Okay,
Then uh,
great.
the second question in probably it's not so difficult. For smaller offices that start to adjust to our new era now, if you had to choose, would you implement BIM or computational design?
Ah. Oh, I have one side.
Well, you can say your side.
I
That's a question for you.
this no, it's more like I feel I'm sold. I'm a computational designer, so I don't know. I see so many advantages of, you know, a company starting to work in a very smart, efficient way, because then it can really um, optimize the time that people spend on actually getting into the concept, exploring more and more. Doesn't mean that you just have to do like a lot of different massings without thinking about it, but now, for example, with the Enscape, you can really walk around, get impressions. So to me, it's super important, computational design, especially in the early stages, to make sure that you can really uh, stand out against your competitors, and that you can push forward the industry, and you can come out with some extraordinary ideas.
Yeah, that's true. I think for a small office that start, my personal opinion is that you should start really with Rhino, because you can in the beginning implement it with some functions that kind of works as BIM, and also in the beginning probably you won't have the most complex project in the world that you need BIM right away, but maybe later on.
Mm.
This is my personal, after talking to so
Yeah,
many
maybe
people.
when you're small, you also, yeah, but when you're small, you might want to win a lot of competitions first. So then you grow, and especially in these early phases, you can get a lot of data out with the computational design. Like in a, but I feel I know more my side, so
I'm
maybe
not a
I'm not
computational
objective.
designer, and I've talked to you and to computational design experts at many other companies. Big friend with Oliver Thomas, he's computational design expert at Big. So yeah, so I'm on your side with this. And then I'm gonna go with the
Okay.
third question.
Yeah,
Uh,
third.
this is third and the last one. What would you prioritize as more important in a project? Time, costs, complexity of design process, or results?
Prioritize. Sorry. So it's time and cost. Then
Complexity of design or results?
prioritize.
Yeah, I don't get this question. I don't know
I yeah,
if
I
Apostolia is
don't.
still listening, she can
Is it possible
elaborate
to
more.
write the question maybe?
Oh, I
Mm,
can share my screen to you so that you can read it. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit
yes.
of a, what is it called? Of a newbie in the streaming era, so I have to. So, do you see my screen now?
Yes.
So, this is the
Hi,
question.
Apostolia.
I don't know if she's still on
Where
because
is it? The third.
the third one. What would you
Uh,
prioritize as most important? Time, costs, complexity of design process, or result?
but okay. If I get the, I don't know if I get the question right, but to me, time and costs go together, because if you reduce as much as possible the time you spend on a project, then at the end you're gonna gain more, because maybe you can use the same people on another project, or yeah, you maybe win the competition.
But
So
maybe she means also
for me, those
costs
two
of the building. Maybe she means also costs, like
ah
also costs. Or maybe Luca is suggesting in the chat that maybe it's connected
ah
to the second question, or maybe he's right. So
mm.
yeah, I don't know. Apostolia has
So
to.
is the time it's built? I think I have a bit of troubles, like just understanding really the question,
But you can read it.
because as more important, like the complexity of the design process. To me, to me, for example, the design process has to be very, very simple and smooth, like not complex at all. Like we can do complex design with a very powerful technologies, with the complex scripts, but at the end it has to be very smooth and simple. So um, the results, I don't know if I understand this question. I'm sorry.
Well, we kind of sort of developed some thoughts about it, so I think we can get it as a thought process.
Yeah.
And
Maybe next time she can text me.
yeah, she can add you on Instagram, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll put all the links in the description. But I mean, people who are following here have followed on Instagram, so they have seen your profile everywhere tagged,
Okay.
so they will be able to
Yeah, but
connect you.
feel free to reach out, and I will try to answer as best as I can, so then we can understand better each other.
Before we go, I understand. I understood you have started a collaboration with Parametric Architecture, with the PAC, with
Yes.
the Parametric Architecture Academy. We know the guys. They were also guests on the podcast. So could you expand more? What kind of things people could learn if they go and join your class?
Wow. Okay, I think everything is very much in the air, in the sense that Amit and I just got one very fun and exciting conversation. I already knew Amit, like we met 2 years or more ago, because of this fungus among us, and we were like keeping already in touch. And I'm a big, big fan of parametric architecture, and I really recommend to people to follow their courses, because you don't only get like some theory and practical knowledge, but you end up really having mm, something that you can put in your portfolio, for example. Or in my case, I do have a portfolio full of like beautiful buildings of like tricks and Kobe, but at the same time, it's so nice also for a professional to just get creative and think out of the box. So I'm gonna have a workshop with the parametric architecture. It's gonna happen either end of April or beginning of May. um, I have in my mind a topic, but um, since, as I told you, I really believe in playfulness and thinking of these spaces that you can explore even as an adult in a somehow uh, kid kid way. I think I will do something related to that, but I I still don't know, but I'm sure it will be shared quite soon. We just yeah, we are gonna have another talk, and then I will be able
Yeah,
to talk a bit more about it.
that's
But
great.
come,
It's
because
a
I love teaching, and I'm sure it's gonna like be great. And I I really care of making sure that people can then use these skills in their everyday life, because we will do something a bit more fun that like will bring to some immediate results. But as like head of computational design, I also always care that what we learn is not just staying on your canvas, and then you can actually use it, or you can get at least some ideas and change the way you work.
Yes, totally. well, that's a reason for people to follow you so that they can stay up to date with what is going to
Yeah.
happen in the workshop. And I don't want
Yes.
to, despite I have to say it's very nice talking to you, but I know that
Thank you.
it's late in the evening and I wanted to let you go home. Before we go, I want to thank you very much for accepting this invitation. It was a real pleasure having you on and hearing your story. And I always say this is just your first time on the stage of the Creative Insider podcast. But in the future, every guest is always welcome back to share something new or something they want to talk. So thank you very much, Eliana.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. And it was like, I have to say, I was terrified, very excited, but also like scared. And you made it like so easy. So thank you very much.
That's
Thank
the
you.
goal, to have fun. So thank you.
Yes.
Have a nice evening, everybody who connected. And